on the phone this morning, Governor Mark Gordon, who's going to Mark, call this sort of a shotgun round because there's a lot we have to talk about, but I mainly want to focus on some of the budget issues you have there. But before I get into all of that, good morning.
Good morning, Glenn. How are you?
I'm doing very good. In fact, Friday, if all works out well, the lady Alex and I will be sort of perusing around the Capitol in the Herschler building. Are you in office Friday?
I should be around here somewhere.
Okay, yeah. Well, we were just going to swing in and just go hi, and pop out if you have a moment when we're kind of wandering around the Capitol there. But okay, let's get into real quick. I was taking a look at the idea of storing nuclear waste in the state of Wyoming. Has that been tabled for now, shelved for now? I think it's something that'll come back.
Well, for those that have followed the story, I think the Mineral Committee was looking at it, and they decided that, lo and behold, the governor actually can kind of pursue this on her own, and that was kind of the way they left it. From our standpoint, this means we're going to pick up some of the work that Chairman Anderson had done and others. Look at it. Luckily, a good friend of mine, Lois Herbst from up in Riverton, was here, as was I, when we talked about this the last time around. She has tapes from the testimony that was given at that time. I'm going to give it, Glenn, I think we don't want to throw away any opportunities, but we want to make sure that we balance public safety and the concerns that we have to see if there really is something of value there. So we're going to look at it, but it's not tabled. It's certainly not on the front burner at this point.
Okay, that lets us know where we're at with that one. Okay, budget
Glenn,
time.
Go right ahead. Let me follow up on that with one other thing, and I'm just curious. As we see wind come online, and we've seen in the IRP that Pacific Power has and others, that they're talking about what they call repowering these wind towers, which means making them taller and much longer wings. We have to do something with those old wings. If we can find out if they're inert, we're wondering how people feel about maybe using some of our old coal mines and part of the reclamation process of allowing those wind blades to be buried as part of the reclamation process.
I've kind of wondered that with a lot of different kinds of waste. Like, for example, the EPA recently is relaxing some Obama-era rules when it comes to waste water and other waste, the solid waste that comes out of coal-fired power plants. And I thought, well, can't you just put that where you got it from? I mean, we have this big hole that we're going to fill in. Can't you just put it right? I don't know what the details are on that. And while we're at it, I understand that when it comes to the turbine blades, we don't know how to recycle that material yet. So that's certainly deep enough to me. I don't have a problem with that if that's what you want to do with it. Hopefully someday they find a way to recycle that. But personally, Mark, I don't have a problem with it.
No. Well, good to know. Good to know. We're looking at that, make sure they're inert, they don't bleach off into groundwater, that sort of thing.
Okay, well that's worth investigating. Let's take a look at the budget, because I've heard a lot from Wyoming lawmakers, and the fact of the matter is our economy has changed a bit and will continue, and we always have the boom bust in Wyoming. And you know me, Mark, when it comes to the taxpayer dollars, I want it in the pockets of the taxpayers, not in the pockets of government, but I'm the libertarian you're talking to. So we got to make some cuts then. We got to go ahead and once again shrink the size of government. Under Matt Mead, some cuts were made. What are you looking at? Because you've talked about reducing the budget more. What's on the cutting block?
Well, we're looking really across the entire spectrum. Part of it, Glenn, as you know, this last year the state put an enormous amount of money into a contract for trying to find efficiencies. Turns out that a lot of that work was already underway in the agencies, and so we're going to try to get that fully expressed. There has been some changes in the agencies, some downsizing, and we're really looking at where we have duplicated services and where perhaps between agencies we can accomplish something that a single agency, has stood up for. One of the things that we recently wound down was the Endow Council, for example, kind of reconfigured the Business Council, want them to be much less of a sort of money fairy and more of a business expertise and coach to help grow not so much recruit new businesses in. That's still part of their mission. But more importantly, as we see these entrepreneurs stand up, what are the things other than state money that we can do to help those businesses get stood up a little bit more competitively? So can we help with marketing? Can marketing expertise? Can we help with advice on business plans? Those kinds of things. So those are the sorts of things we're looking at. I have to say, this is a very, very complicated budget. They have all kinds of terms that get thrown around that I always thought I knew. Things like structural and non-structural and one-time and standard and ongoing. And one of the biggest things for us, I think, as you know, is to be transparent and make sure the people of Wyoming understand what those terms mean and what they imply in out-year budgets as well.
Okay, well then, since I got the governor's ear for a moment here, let's let you hear from the more libertarian perspective then. I look at what I think is the role of government, right? Since you mentioned I like the idea of the money ferry. That's a good idea. So I look at it as, well, the Endow program I would like to see just go entirely. In fact, I know a lot of people would disagree with me. But even the Wyoming Department of Tourism should, if some private sector companies would like to get together and make a Department of Tourism, they can do that on their own money. In fact, I don't even like the idea of city, county, or state government grants and especially loans. If somebody wants to start a business in Wyoming and they could not find investors and they could not get a bank to loan them money, then why is the state of Wyoming loaning them money? Because that doesn't always turn out well. So you see what I mean? I would just take the faucet for the money ferry and I would turn it completely off and put a padlock on it and say, if you're in a private sector company and you're trying to figure out how to grow and how to advertise your business, there are private consulting firms that help with that too. Form a cooperative. That's not the role of government, and that would save you a ton of money.
Yeah, it certainly would, and if you track my time as treasurer, you'll know that several of the loans that were considered, we actually torpedoed.
Okay.
And one of the things that I would say, we stood up a program, and it's modeled a little bit after what's done in Ohio. One of the most sort of intriguing things about Wyoming at this point is that the state cannot, under our Constitution, we have to have our monies deposited in a state or a national bank, and the problem is that we have so few banks of size that about the largest loan that they can do on the private side is about a $6 million loan. And because it has to be fully collateralized. And so we looked at a program like Ohio did, where the state actually stood a bit behind the private sector. And what they did is they allowed for a sort of a second tier of financing. The bank was ultimately responsible, but they could access some of those funds if there was an enterprise that really wanted to get stood up that the banks couldn't really do. We've tried to recraft that. I think Treasurer Meyer is continuing to work a little bit on that so that it is private sector leading. We're enabling local banks to have a better chance than out-of-state banks because, as you probably know, Glenn, and we saw it with the last recession, we need all our banking sector, but our local community banks are more familiar with the local faces and sometimes a little more willing to put their name on the line when times are tough. And we need to have that resiliency in our economy. Are you still working on the budget, or have you finished it? No, we're working on the budget. Okay. Yesterday, I had a meeting with the chairs of the Appropriation Committee just to sort of walk through, kind of get some of their take on what they were thinking. They wanted to hear a bit from me about what I was thinking. And again, it is pulling these services in, making it more transparent. I think, Glenn, as you can imagine, when you've had the flush times that we've had over the last couple of years, you can't just turn the spigot off immediately.
Right.
You
You want to slowly back it off. Okay, so then I know this is the ballpark I'm asking for, but how much do you think you're going to be able to cut?
Well, as you know, that's a little bit hard to say. As you know, we do our budgeting kind of based on what anticipated tax collections are going to be off of minerals and other things. And happily for Wyoming, for the near term anyway, we still see some pretty good volumes of coal that are leaving, even though we've had so much trouble in that sector. So we're going to probably sit pretty tight with our standard budget. The exceptions that come along, those are the things that we increase from, we want more people to do X or Y, or maybe we need something else. That's going to be hit pretty hard. And I'm, as you can well imagine, as far as our building projects and so on, I want to make sure that we do the best we can with what we have before we start building new.
Okay, and speaking of building new, there are some people who will grumble in the past about like the Capitol project, and you've heard those kind of complaints as well. So some of those building projects, I'm sure, will come up. And I know is the Capitol pretty much done? Are you guys still spending there?
It's in the wrap-up stage.
Right.
It's the parts of the punch list we have done, some of the substantial completions. There is still work to do. I can't tell you, and I think those who have followed me know how much I struggled with this project. But now it's time to get it done. It's a wonderful building. It's a beautiful building. I think you'll find it. Have you been there before?
I have not had a chance to I took a tour when they had gutted the place. I mean, completely, and saw some of the layers pulled back, and oh my Lord, what they were discovering back there. So I can't wait to see what this looks like. And what do you think? You saw the old office and now the new old office. What do you think? Where you're sitting, what do you think it looks like? Is it good?
Oh, I think it's beautiful. I think it's a building that people of Wyoming will be proud of. I keep thinking what the return on investment is going to be, and it's a point I intend to make in my State of the State.
Okay.
Now that we have such a glorious, beautiful thing, are we going to use it for its purpose, or are we going to look at it?
Sure. Okay. Well, again, hopefully, if all goes well, Lady Alex and I will swing in for maybe just a 2-minute hello and then get out of your hair. But I would love to see the upgrade, because the last time I stood in that particular office, it was with Governor Meade. And even then, I was looking around going, yeah, kind of needs an upgrade here. So I hope it's nice and sparkly for you. Anyway, do you have an old desk in there, or a traditional desk, or a new one?
Well, Glenn, we haven't quite moved in yet.
Oh, I thought you were there.
So we're still in the funeral home.
Oh, you're across the street. I'll swing by there then. Okay. I thought that they had put you in the new old office then. Okay. Yeah. All right. We'll swing by there. Mark, thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. Governor Mark Gordon. Let's wake up Wyoming.